Good evening. My name is Daniel Young, and I am suffering from allergies. So if I cough, sneeze, or otherwise during this, I apologize. I'm the owner and founder of Adapted Perspective and the Adapted Perspective channel here on YouTube, where I help you make your dreams a reality. And the other thing that's distracting me is my cats. Um, they eat at 8 o'clock, and it's 2 hours till then, and they are everywhere and needy. Um, So still doing closed-end fund strategy. This is the 70-second strategy video, which is still just mind-boggling to me. Um, so talking about our stock market investment strategy using closed-end funds, that's just one way we're working towards our dreams. If you want the full system, I offer that free on Facebook. Look for the Adapted Perspective Navigate Your Finances channel or page. Our self-managed closed-end fund portfolio is built on lasting dividends, not the gradual sell-off of funds. That means that, quite honestly, the day-to-day, I track day-to-day stuff, but it doesn't stress me out. Even the week-to-week stuff. I mean, I check data every week. I input and update data every week. And even when the market swings and our portfolio increases in value to 8% up, or if it swings and crashes like it did the last couple of years and it drops to like 18% down, doesn't freak me out. And that's very different from most strategies because our portfolio is built on lasting dividends and not the standard day-to-day pricing. So the components of our strategy are that we play the long game. We're not looking to like quick buy, quick sell. We're not, especially flipping stocks. We're not into that. It's a no withdrawal portfolio designed to fund or supplement our retirement, and that's made that way to where we live on dividends and we're not cashing out the principal value of our account. We buy and hold. Sometimes we roll over, meaning we buy and hold. Maybe sometimes we hold it a year and a half when it hits a certain profit margin, or you'll probably see in a little bit on our portfolio where it's grayed out. You can look when we've bought and sold things and what the profit margin is. But anything we sell for whatever price, whether we gain money on the sell or lose money on the sell, we're just reinvesting that money into something else. We target 9% plus dividends, which is unheard of because that's a far cry from that 0.5% dividend crap you get with Apple. So we buy in fear and we buy more in extreme fear. So the only accurate thing I found on CNN is their fear and greed index. And when that meter slumps down into fear, that's a good time to buy. And when it drops down into extreme fear, that's a really good time to buy. When a lot of people are selling off their portfolios for losses, you can pick up a lot of funds for cheap and like cheaper than cheap. Uh, if you buy during the greed cycle, which we're kind of into that territory now, you want to make a good conscientious effort to get a great deal by demanding a discount. And for us, that's we never pay premium. As we've built this portfolio, as we've increased our knowledge, as we've continued to learn, we've never bought a closed-end fund at premium. But our strategy today is very different than what it was 2 years ago. There's a very strict boundary on what we can buy, and I'll kind of explain that in a little bit. But we're buying everything on discount, but we're also buying everything with extreme discount. So how do we do that? Well, this is an unedited video, and you've already seen me make some mistakes today. But this is an unedited video, so who knows what you'll hear in the background as I film these in my house. Maybe my cats will make an appearance, maybe not. I am not a financial advisor. I am a financial strategist. That's stock investment, personal income, how to bridge your way into passive income, the whole gamut. I talk about the stock market and overall financial strategy on YouTube. I talk about personal income and passive income and the whole system on Facebook. I don't speak like the herd. And I would love all of these to run perfectly with no mistakes, no speaking gaffes or anything like that. But um, yeah, this is stuff I film at my house, and I like the transparency of that. I like the clear cut, honest look into making a video, and I also just like the transparent, like it's truth in context. So you get to see me make these videos completely live without editing and the poor lighting and all the random distractions in the background, but also get good advice on how to formulate a strategy and then how to invest into the stock market. Um, so we employ a specific strategy, and I've talked about that in full in past videos, and I'll get into a little bit here, maybe more. But based on our strategy, where would I park money if I'm buying on Monday? So let's consider the market at large. The Fed has stalled rates. I mean, housing rate, the Fed rate is like 5.5. The lowest you can find on a house right now is maybe 7.25. I've seen mobile home neighborhoods at 10.5%. I've seen single family home, new home buyers down at maybe like 5.75. Investors as low as 6.25. But that's a far cry. Like that's a huge jump from where we were maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when you could get a loan for 3%. So with the Fed hyping interest rates in order to control their inflation, which it's their part, that's not my point. The Fed created inflation. They printed $4 trillion in a very short amount of time and then told everybody we didn't realize it would cause inflation. BS. But the Fed caused inflation, right? But the Fed self-created inflation. And inflation just means it's a devaluation of money, supply and demand. The Fed printed $4 trillion in a very short amount of time. It devalued the dollar's worth, what people thought it was worth. So the Fed has stalled their rates. Supposedly, inflation is getting under control. But that's if you believe the Fed. I mean, the Fed in their world says that, their perfect world says that inflation sits at 2%. And they're hoping to get things back to 2%. And if you believe them, that's great. Me, I think the inflation level generally sits at 4% or higher. And that's like pick a year. On an amazing year, it's 4%. So when the Fed tells you that it's 8%, it's probably 2 to 4% off. So the market at large, the Fed has stalled rates. That signals people to go, maybe we're finally ending the rate hikes. Maybe like we're kind of hitting that soft recession area. And maybe the Fed will decrease rates next year. And the hope of that has three different firms saying the Fed will drop the rate multiple times next year. We have no idea. Me, I think they'll drop the rate before summer. So like early second quarter. So April and May, I think they'll set off another housing shopping spree. Now, in saying that, you've got a ton of people with a 3 to 4% mortgage. They're not going to trade that in for a 6.5% mortgage. But when the Fed drops the rate, so the average going rate at 7.25 might drop to 7, maybe the upper sixes, right? But you're going to ask somebody to buy a similar sized house, whether they buy a smaller one or a bigger one. But you're going to ask somebody to trade their 3% loan for something that's twice as expensive. I don't think you'll see a lot of those people moving unless they absolutely have to, because 6% is better than 7, 6.5 is better than 7.5. But a lot of people who want to get in a house right now and that are renting, I think we'll see more of those people try to find a house, and you'll have a slightly increased market supply. You'll have a slightly decreased rate, and you'll have a ton of people looking for housing, and it's going to escalate home prices. So right before summer, right before school, we'll get another quick burst of a escalating home price market. And all of that I mean, quite honestly, all of that will distract from any other newsworthy events because everybody's going to be talking about the Fed rates and the potential and the hope and the housing market, and it's going to divert your attention from anything else. So, yeah, but for us, so whether we're buying now or whether we're buying in 6 months, our overall mentality pretty much follows my mentor. I found Brett Owens online during the lockdowns, and I like his advice. I don't always take it, but I like his advice because it's very different than what you'll hear in those, um, without being crass. It's very different than what you'll hear in the online circuit group, whether you're looking at Forbes, CNN, MSNBC, whatever the CNBC. It's very different from those guys talking about the stock market. So Brett's strategy is bull or bear, or his commentary is bull or bear, I don't care. And then he has a strategy. Ours is buying discounts. So would you rather pay a greater than full price compared to paying full price, or would you rather pay a discount? Pretty much everybody would rather pay a discount. So if you're comparing apples to apples, pick anything: consumer good, car, dining chair, technology, iPhone or Samsung. Like, pick your item, put it anything side by side, and what you can do three in a row. Would you rather pay more than it's worth, what it's worth, or less than it's worth? And everybody would rather pay less than it's worth because everybody likes a good deal. And we all like saying we got the best deal available. So we buy discounts. So with that in mind, if we bought Monday, or if we bought 30 years from now, like if we're buying Monday, we're not buying Monday for Tuesday, and we're not buying Monday for a month from now. We're buying Monday looking 10, 20, 30, 40 years into the future. So what are we going to do on the long game side of things? What are the best things that we can buy now that will still perform well later? And I still think it's been pretty much the same the last 6 weeks. I still think that's bonds. I think that's energy infrastructure, whether that's oil, utilities, energy transfer. And then I think it's almost anything else. There's like private equity with business development companies, uh, REITs, the real estate investment trust, or banks. And if you consider what the market at large is doing, so if the Fed drops rates, then almost everything should get better, right? If the Fed drops rates, then your money is worth more. And the value, in theory, the cost of everything drops. Now, whether consumer goods drop their cost or not is a completely separate matter. But if the Fed's dropping rates, then in theory, the value of everything else goes up. So the sectors that I see that benefiting the most would be private equity, like business development companies. So you get companies that lend money to others. If the rate is smaller, there's not as much cost on the loan. Like their business should pick up. Real estate, if the Fed's rate drops, real estate rate drops. That should go well. And then you look at banks who lend money. Now, banks can lend out a lot more money than you put into it, right? But there's more profit for them to be had if there's a lower Fed rate. And then after that, maybe data, maybe communications, because everybody has a phone. And even though I'm filming on a laptop, everybody has a phone, and you can do a lot of business on a phone. And there's junior high and elementary kids that have a phone. So communications is important. And then you look at the overall management of that communication system, the overall data system. Verizon and AT&T don't own a lot of their own cell towers. They rent their cell towers from other people. So you have these other companies building cell towers and then leasing them out. And then that company hires third party to manage all the data happening at their cell tower. That would be a good thing in general. The things that don't make the cut, I think technology is still overpriced. Um, and then the consumer sector as a whole, just doesn't make my list. It for me, it's too volatile, and especially the global stuff. Like regardless of what you buy, or regardless of what you buy into on those TV screens, or however you get your news these days, anything global that stirs up the masses impacts the overall perceived value of any stock. And there's also a little discrepancy within the consumer market. I consider real estate its own thing, but real estate is really housed under the consumer market. So the housing ought to be its own category. Um, yeah, so consumer for me, I'm just not a huge consumer thing. I'm not a huge consumer sector advocate, I guess you could say. Um, so where does that leave us? So let's look at the bargains for the week and then see who's got the greatest discounts. So to do that, let me share my screen. Come on. All right, Zoom screen. So this is the closed-end fund master. It's 423, I think, 425 different closed-end funds right now. That everything that's color-coded gets updated weekly. Everything that's in gray or white does not get updated weekly. It's sorted out. Blue is what we own. Green is what I track for any number of reasons. Purple is recommended by somebody I trust. So then like if I alpha order these, it's a lot of different data. So then we filter the spreadsheet. We look by discount. And these are grayed out for different reasons. Um, just because it's a great 40, like it's almost half off, but it pays quarterly. Sorry, it pays quarterly, pays a great yield, pays quarterly. When we sold it, it was cash only. Like for a year and a half, it was just cash, and they were dispensing dividends, which is not a great investment strategy. The other thing is it's an automatic dividend reinvestment. So when this pays you, um, Cuba is not Cuba the country. It's Cuba in that it's the uh, Gulf of Mexico rim, Florida, Cuba, a little bit down into Mexico, and it's the dividend reinvestment. So I don't know how well you can see this. We'll say we own 100 shares, right? So every quarter we get $17.36. That money gets deposited into your account, and you're like, great, 17 bucks. I can use that to buy something else. And the company says, here's the 1736, thank you. And then the next day they take it back and they reinvest it into that company and they give you partial shares back. So you're buying whole shares, they're giving you whole and partial shares back. And it's a constant reinvestment into the company. Now, in the long run, it does slowly buy down your overall, like your total investment into the company. Like it decreases your cost to share. But on our end, we don't like the dividend reinvestment because it's never money in hand. It's money in your bank that's taken out that you never get to keep and invest in something else. And I would much rather invest my own dividends than have somebody else do it for me. Uh, annual, annual donations get grayed out. Semi-annual dividends get grayed out. The parameters on the gray are at the top. Light blue we own, purple's recommended, olive is interested. So we rank them by discount, and then we look at targets that I've already pre-screened. So 3 asterisks is a buy alert. So the discount given is for that particular fund. So when the current discount is double, at least double, but double the historical discount, and then greater than the 5-year discount, you get a triple asterisk. If the fund's only been around for 3 years, then I base it just on that one pattern. Like if it's got a 20% discount over the last 3 years, if it's got a current 22% discount, it gets a 3 asterisk. Dollar cost average is what we own. So it's just current price versus our overall share price. And then the single asterisk is just for funds we track. So if we limit this to just these, and then we go over to the spreadsheet that I already made, current applies to the stuff in blue, the things we already own. I always like to know what we already have. So everything here is in significant discount related to this particular fund. Now, yes, 35 is a lot greater than 8, but it's related to each individual fund. So what I like to do is first, so everything's already sorted by discount. I've already gone through and looked at where that current yield sits. So we own things in blue. So HFRO has a 33.5% discount. Historically, it's at 15. That's greater than 15. 5 years is at 22. And yes, that's greater than 22. So it makes this list. If we look back 1, 2, 3, 4 videos, you'll see HFRO has a 37. I mean, I kind of keep data for about four weeks in a row, but their discount was 37. HGLB's was 36. KYN is hovered around 18. So we have 33, 28, and still 17 and a half. I've been looking for funds that fit those categories of interest. I've also been trying to find funds that are better than what we have, because I mean, I like a good deal. I want to invest where we're already invested, but if something came along that was a much better overall investment than something we already owned, then it would make the consideration list. But since all of these are what the options are for, like, they meet the parameters of where we start. Next, I go to yield. I guess I always like an inverse. So we want everything 9% and above. The only exception to that, I think, is this one. Yeah. So this is a municipal bond fund. So it's tax-free dividends. So, and of all the different municipal bond funds, like you'll see muni bond, right here and there. This one has a tax-free dividend above 9%. All the others don't. We sit in this tax category. You can go to cefconnect.com and type in whatever whatever CEF you want, and it'll give you data on that. But on all the muni bonds, it will, you can look at your tax bracket and then see your tax equivalent yield. So this one stays for now just because of discount. But everything else below 9, we're going to take out. Right? That one stays because the tax equivalent is higher. So that still leaves us with a pretty significant list. So where do we go from here? Well, I've been tracking Calamos for a while. I like they have great management. Their funds do well. They pay consistently. But as much as I like these funds, the portfolio to can is not a bad thing. But tech, I still think is overpriced, and they've got some consumer investments, tech and consumer. So just based on that, they don't make the list. As we start to kind of clear these out, let's see. So HTY is a lot of tech. Senior loans, banking, bonds, real estate, communications, energy, banking. So if you kind of remember that initial list, so bonds, energy, infrastructure, real estate, banking. Can't remember what else I said, honestly. Real estate, banking, business development. That's technology. Energy infrastructure. Healthcare, Pfizer's still battling issues. I mean, healthcare as a whole it's one company. All of these companies own a lot of other companies. So one thing is not going to crazily drag them down, but healthcare is still spluttering following the lockdown and people's perception of everything. But the main reason I don't like this fund is I found out after we bought it, it's a dividend reinvestment. So as soon we have this earmark in our stocks that as soon as we hit a certain price point, it's a sell. Um, yeah. So you look at the dividend return, they pay a quarterly dividend sometime in December. So uh, that will go up. I mean, I would prefer to not take a loss. Um, I would prefer to not take a loss, but we'll see what the price point is when the next dividend gets paid. Um, yeah, I don't like the dividend reinvestment stuff. So, or the automatic dividend reinvestment. Um, we're really not looking to buy anything we don't already have. But the other part of this is that gets close to our maximum amount. Like I'm really not interested in stuff close to 16, and that's close to 16. Um, but as we really start to filter the list, so let's go back to discount. So bonds, bonds plus real estate, communications, and energy infrastructure, business development. But as much as I like the fund, it pays quarterly, it pays a lower rate. So it pays an amazing yield based upon the dividend and the share price, but it doesn't really pay great overall. Right. So 66 on the year compared to we pretty much own 200 of almost everything else. KYN and their sister company just merged. So that is really kind of the lowest earner on this list. So I mean, if it was selling for an amazing deal and I couldn't find anything better, it honestly it would tempt me. But knowing what else is here in the dividend involved, for me, it doesn't make it. Um, so my goal has been to get everything to 200 or above. Like IGR, we own a real estate group at 300. KYN, we had 250 shares, and then it merged with its sister company. Now we have 400. And then I took my own advice last week and bought 27 shares of KYN. So because I like an even number of shares. It's for someone who's a little OCD. These partial shares are a little annoying. Um, so I even that out. 400, we'll leave it there. If the price drops off to like $7 again, we'll see what the market we'll see what everything else looks like and see if it's a great deal besides the price. Um, for where we are, it's not that that list is a group. So I think it's bonds first, energy infrastructure second, and then that almost everything else. So you look at business development, real estate, uh, and banking, or loans in general. So if we're looking at this, that means that's bonds, bonds plus the other stuff, energy infrastructure, and then you have these three that sit in that third category. So you have banking, and then like senior rate loans. So this one what was described this way: senior floating rate loans that love an aggressive Fed. The Fed right now is not being aggressive. They are saying they're being aggressive, but they're not being aggressive. Stalling rates, pausing rates is not aggressive. Um, but BRW has also added a giant collection of closed-end funds. So they still have that section of their portfolio where it's floating rate loans or floating rate senior loans that love an aggressive Fed. But they also have a part of their portfolio that kind of shifted in advance of what the Fed's about to do, or what we all hope the Fed's about to do. and built the other half of their portfolio with all of these other closed-end funds. And that way, when the Fed gets aggressive, great, we'll see if they keep the strategy long term. And when the Fed goes hands off, or is not as aggressive as in like maintaining a rate and increasing it, then they have a closed-end, like a self, they have their own internal closed-end fund portfolio. It's pretty interesting. But at the same time, that's in my third category. Now they're all great, but it's in the third category, so we can delete those. This one's different. Tax-free money sounds great. So if the tax bracket's 9, it's like we're looking at that. And I did this earlier, but that's no guarantee that I'll get it right again. So if we're doing the math like normal, so this yield is this amount times, or this amount divided by your current share price. Overall, the spreadsheet lays it out a little bit differently, but you get 0.744 divided by, gives you that percentage. So, right, you multiply by 100, now you have that percentage. So how do you do it backwards? If 9.53 is the end, how do you do that backwards? It should be 0.0953 times current share price. So that's your actual annual dividend on a tax-free equivalent, which is amazing, right? So then you do it by month, and it raises it like a tenth of a cent. So that's great. So we'll put this in. So 0.0787. Hey, look at that. Correct math. So this company has a dividend that has not risen back to what it was. Like it could go higher. The price could go higher. But does it offer us a better bond opportunity than something I already have, or we already have? So if we look at just one share, these two are already cheaper. If we look at current yield, these are already better. If we look at current monthly yield, that's this one's comparable. That's already better. That's actually a decreased dividend compared to normal. Normally, it's like this. I think this one is high. I don't remember this one. And it's normally a little bit higher, but it doesn't beat this one. And we'll do it that way. So it gives us a different place to put money inside the market, but it doesn't necessarily give us a better investment opportunity than what we already have. And saying correlate it to what Warren Buffett said. It's diversification is not knowing what you need to do. Like people who diversify, it's a compensation method because you don't really know where to put your money. And of all places, the Bilbo in the Lord of the Rings says it best. And he's not talking about anything; he's talking about himself. But it's an amazing money correlation, amazing investment correlation. Bilbo says he feels like butter scraped over too much bread. And when you diversify your money to just diversify your money, it's butter scraped over too much bread in the sense that you spread it out so much, you don't really get a gain in any one area. So to diversify into municipal bonds, just to diversify into municipal bonds and give us a different bond investment, isn't enough of a reason for me to diversify when we already have bond investments. And in our portfolio, our self-managed portfolio, let's see, bonds overall. That's a portfolio at a can that has a bond section. Same thing, right? Bonds and closed-end funds, loans and closed-end funds, bond fund, bonds and utility, all that other stuff. Pacific Rim Bond Fund, right? Bonds. So we're already, I don't want to use the word diversified, but you could argue that we're diversified within the closed-end fund area already of the funds that we own that also own bonds. I don't want to add another one just because it's in a different area. And I mean, tax-free is great. Tax-free sounds amazing, but it's got to offer me something better than what I don't already have. And as much as it's interesting, it doesn't make the list. Now, could it make your list? It could make your list. Um, so if you don't own a closed-end fund, any of these four are a great place to look. It also comes down to your strategy. This pays quarterly. The other three pay monthly. Kind of comes down to how much money you have. And I mean, I buy things in sets of 50 because I like the math. But if you don't care about that, then you can get small pieces of all of them and start investing. The best bang for your buck is still this one. Now it's closed in that it's closed 4% in the last 6 weeks. Look at the, what was the share price? From below 8 to almost 850. It could close another 4% and still be amazing. Actually, 15. So it could close another 3.5% and still be a great buy. Same thing with this one. 28 now, closed 8% almost. It could close another 3 to 4% and still be a great buy. KYN generally is premium. So it kind of it really is. I don't want to shirk the strategy, but it's your strategy. So do you want to get paid quarterly or monthly? When I had this conversation with my daughter, it's like, when do you want to get paid? Every 3 months or every month? Every month. Do you want to pay a discount or do you want to pay more than it's worth? The discount. Okay. Do you want to pay the best discount there is or anything that has a discount? Anything that has a discount sounds good, but the best discount there is sounds really good too. Okay. And not that it's diversifying, although somebody is sure to throw it back at me that it's, oh, you're saying diversifying. If every week the last year, this one has been the top of the list and you're buying this every week. So 52 weeks in a year and you're buying however many shares a week. Like if you're buying 10 shares a week, right? 52 weeks in a year, you've bought just 5,200 shares of that. You're getting a great annual dividend. But that's the only thing you're invested in. And maybe that is Warren Buffett's advice, right? Why diversify when you know what you want to invest in and when you know what's an ideal investment for you and where the market will be? Maybe it is. On my end of things, even though bonds are the top investment, oil will always be needed. And to take Kiyosaki's advice, you invest in what the Fed can't print. Now, the Fed can print a ton of money. And he takes it as in, I buy precious metals. It's really hard to buy precious metals unless you know exactly what you're doing and you have the money to do it. Bonds aren't Fed printed, but at the same time, they're related to what the Fed can print. Oil, regardless of what you believe on climate and green energy and everything else, oil will be needed. This laptop, the mouse, the fridge, your cell phone, the parts in your car, the parts in your freezer, everything is either oil or an oil byproduct. Like I'm sitting at a dining table that's solid wood. No, the wood is not oil based, but the stain and the polyurethane, the the wood conditioner, all that stuff, that's an oil derivative. So when you limit the production of oil, you're automatically causing everything else to go up in price because now everything else, crutches, pacemakers, um, all those green energy products, solar panels, all of those things need an oil byproduct. So when you limit the supply and the demand is crazy high, everything goes up in price. So oil long term makes the list. And of the funds we own three current oil funds. So depending on who meets the standard, like the other two don't meet the discount standard, so they're not on the list. If it switches back and they make the list and nothing else is, right? So the strategy is know what it's get the best discount for now, knowing what will be needed in the future. When the market we'll play the if game. If the market turns and if rates drop and bonds go up, then these should leave the list. The window has closed, like the discount window has closed already, and they've been on this list for forever. But if they actually drop, so historical discount 15, so double of that would be 30. So if this actually drops below 30% off, right? So instead of paying $1, you're buying it for 67 cents right now. So instead of paying $1, you would buy it for 70 cents. That's still pretty good, right? But if the discount drops to under double the historical value, it will drop off this list. And if the Fed truly reverses rates and starts to do all of that, these should drop off the list. This might stay on the list, it might not. This list might look completely different 6 months from now. I hope it does, because I've pretty much said the same thing every week. So you can leave this on your list if you like, but it doesn't stay on ours. And there's one clear cut for us. My goal has been to hit 200, unless we already own more of it. But this sets us up well. It's bonds plus, I guess I could type that in. I have it on the other page. It's bonds plus those other markers. First tier bonds, second tier energy, third tier almost everything else. First tier bonds, second tier energy, right? Third tier REIT and communications, or REIT communications and data, right? So for us, it's an easy pick. For you, I mean, the municipal bonds can make your list, but these are still the top three, and they've been the top three for at least the last 2 months. That's the best overall deal. This will be the great of the three. This poses the greatest long-term ongoing need. Oil helps to fuel real estate, communications, and energy. Yeah. Yeah. So still, oddly enough, it's still the same top three, but for us, that's my top pick. So if you like the picks, if you like the content, consider subscribing to my channel. Hit the like button, and then also go over to Facebook and check out my group there. As you face the week, as you get ready for the end of this year, and as you hopefully still have your overall trajectory in mind, you are the captain of your ship. Your ship will go wherever you steer it. So make sure you know where you're going and why. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about and you don't understand the nautical metaphor at all, then go to Facebook and check out my other nautical group. Check out my group there called Navigate Your Finances, and I get into all of that. But It's kind of like if you're walking in your neighborhood and your goal is to walk your neighborhood, you know where you're going and why. But the same thing is true in finances and in life. If you have no idea where you're going financially, you're just going through the normal stuff, hoping something will turn out 30 years from now and work out well for you. It's not going to look pretty when you try to retire. So if you have no idea where you're going financially, no idea what you're shooting for and why, then check out my page and let me help you navigate your finances. Otherwise, so if you stick with my channel on here, my whole point is just to give you a different perspective. It's this is what you think you know, right? And my point is to either change your vantage point or give you more information so that you can truly adapt your perspective. Because this method, this strategy is not what's taught on mainstream TV. Motley Fool, in my mind, is truly a fool because single stock investments, you buy at full price and they generally pay bad dividends. And it's risky because you're investing in one stock versus the closed-end fund. It's a long list of stuff. I mean, some companies only have 30 or 40 other companies. Some funds have thousands of other companies under their title, but at the same time, that's a lot more companies than just one. So you get better access, better buy-in, lower price, better dividend. There's a lot to be said for closed-end funds, and that's not what you're going to hear on mainstream TV. So wherever you're headed, I hope you know where you're going. And if you have no idea where you're going and why, then let's talk. Find me on Facebook and let me help you. Yeah, as we get ready for Christmas, gosh, Christmas is 2 weeks away. So I hope your Christmas season goes well. I mean, yes, I will make more videos before then, but I hope your Christmas season goes well. I hope your preparation for that goes well. And I hope this has been helpful for you. So have a great week, everybody, and I will see y'all on another video. Bye-bye.